mesechta daf dalet amud aleph. We're starting from Gimel Amud Beis, 2 lines from the bottom by the words Man Dodish. Schus my father Rav Shalom Toiv Berber Rav Chaim Yitzchak Zal. Schus my mother Saras Bas Blum Halei Adis Yam Nishtam Toives. Schus all those from the shir, including myself, Shnei Zamas Esther, and Mishpachtoi with alle brachs von halb bestop betu anir ve anigla. Sagt die Mother Amar, who said to himself, Man Dodish, who are the ones was am Gedashin, that Dashim Nikarvacha Chatos Malach Malach, from the midst, from between your brothers, you shall place a king over you in such a way that it excludes slaves. Zog the Gemara Rabbanan, it was a Rabbanan. Kom Katlun Lekol Rabbanan. He got up and he killed all the Rabbanan. It doesn't mean all, but a majority of the Rabbanan, because we know that the Mesechta did not get killed. Rather, it means who just killed the majority of the Chachamim. He left Bava and Buta to give him advice. Adelei, clearly Yalei, nevertheless, Hud is placed on Bava and Buta's head a crown of the skin made from porcupine, which had needles in it. Nakrin Leine, and it ripped his eyes out. One day, Hudas came and sat down before Bava and Buta, pretending that he's a regular person. He said to Bava and Buta, you saw, master, did you see what this wicked slave is doing? Meaning Hudas was talking, was insinuating that Bava and Buta should go against him. So Bava and Buta answered Hudas, what should I do to him? Amalei Netalyamar. Hudas said to Bava and Buta, let Bava and Buta curse him, let the master curse him. Amalei, so Bava and Buta answered, Ksiv, it says in the pasuk, Gam v'madoacha melech al tekal. Even in your thoughts, you shouldn't curse a king. So therefore, I'm not allowed to curse him. Amalei hayla melechu. Who just said to Bava and Buta, this man is not a king. He took it by force. So there's no reason to hold back from cursing him. Amalei v'lahavi osh b'alma. Bava and Buta said, even if he were to be just a simple, wealthy person, I can't curse him. Uksiv u'b'chadr mishkavcha al tekal al osher. It's written further in that pasuk, and even in your bedroom, do not curse the rich. Even if, so he answered, and he said even more so. Even if he was only a prince, I couldn't curse him. It's written in the pasuk, and a prince that's among your people, you shouldn't curse. So even though Hudas wasn't really from royalty, but he's at least equivalent to a ruler, to a prince. Amalei b'yismai. So Hudas said, no. Amalei b'yismai samcha. Hudas said to Bava and Buta, this is against cursing a ruler or a prince. It has to be. It applies only to one that acts in the way of your people, meaning that he's mekayim the Torah umitzvos. And this king is not one that behaves in the way that the Jewish people behave, because he's a Rasha. So why don't you curse him? Why do you refuse to curse him? Amalei mistafi d'minei. So Bava and Buta said to him, I'm afraid of the king. Amalei leikeinish da'azal le'malei. Hudas said to Bava and Buta, there is no one that will go and tell the king that you have cursed him. Don't worry. Don't be afraid. It's only me and you that are sitting alone, and no one will hear us. Amalei. So Bava and Buta said back to Hudas, it says in the pasuk, for a bird of the sky will carry the sound and bring. I mean, this the flying bird will Yagidava will tell over, and it will become viral. You can never be assured that the private conversation will remain secret for Kurt. But it will probably become viral. Amalei Anohu. Huda said to Bava ben Buta, I am the king himself. If I would have known that the Chachamim were so careful, I would have not killed them. Hurdas realized that Baba ben Buta was like only a sample of the entire group of the Chachamim, and that none of them would have acted in a bad way. Faket. And he sees that they were righteous people, and he regretted it. So he asked, Hashta might have come to who Gavra? Now he asked Baba Buddha, what is the remedy of such a person like myself? What could I do to get Hashem's forgiveness? Amalei, Baba Buddha said to Hurdes, and he was addressing him in a third party. He extinguished the light of the world, getting rid of the Chachamim, who the Chacham had Torah is compared to light. Like it says in the pasuk, the mitzvahs, the commandments are like a nail, like a candle with Torah, and the Torah is light. Therefore, in order to get kapara, he should go and occupy himself with restoring the light of the world by rebuilding the Beis Hamikdash. It says that even though the second Beis Hamikdash was standing, but nevertheless it needed to be repaired. It badly needed to be repaired, like it's mentioned on Gimel Amud Beis. So Baba therefore advised Hurdes to destroy it and rebuild it. And where do we see that the Beis Hamikdash is called light? It says regarding the third Beis Hamikdash, and all the nations will be drawn to it, like it's drawn to light, like people are drawn to light. Others say that this is what Baba said to Hurdes. Instead of saying who cover oide who sima einoi shalelim, Hurdes blinded the eye of the world by getting rid of the Chachamim, who are like the eyes of the nation, like it's written. And if through the eyes of the Ada, of the congregation, meaning that if the Sanhedrin advised and made a decision permitting some form of idol worship to the Yidden, so there it says that they would have to bring a korban. So what's the lashon that they used? Meaning that if the Chachamim or the Sanhedrin, who are the eyes of the congregation, will tell you that they made a decision that caused the Yidden to do some form of idol worship, so the Chacham are used with the name Me'enei, the eyes of the Ada. So therefore, in order to get the kapara, he should go and occupy himself with restoring the eye of the world. How? To rebuilding the Beis Hamikdash, which is also connected with the words eyes. Mahmad einechem, like it says in the pasuk, behold, I will destroy my Migdash, the pride of your strength, and the desire of your Mahmad einechem, and the desire of your eyes. He uses the Beis Hamikdash as a nickname for eyes. So in both psukim, Baba ben Buta gave him the Eitzah to reconstruct the second Beis Hamikdash as a kapara. So when he heard this advice, Hurda said to Bava Buta, I'm afraid of the Roman government. Because Hurdas himself was afraid of the Roman authorities, that they would disapprove of his of strengthening Yiddishkeit, and therefore they would oppose what he's doing. Amalei, so Bava Buta gave him advice: send a shliach to Rome to request permission. This was to be rebuilt the Beis Hamikdash. Shata, and the shliach should travel for a year before reaching Rome. Shata, and remain there for a year for prolonging the negotiations. Shata, and then spend a year returning home. So in those 3 years, in the meantime, you demolish the existing structure of the Beis Hamikdash, and of course rebuild it, and that's it. Hurdas agreed to this plan, and he did exactly that. The Roman government sent back an answer to Hurdas: if you didn't yet demolish the existing structure, don't demolish it. And if you had already demolished it, don't rebuild it. But if you already demolished it and rebuilt it, wicked slaves look for permission only after they do what they wish. If you are proud of your weaponry, we're letting you know we have the book of your yichus over here before us. Lo yiracha v'lo baracha. You're not a recha, you're not a king, and you're not the son of a king. Hurdas avda klanya misabit. You're just a Hurdas, the slave who made himself free. In fact, what is the meaning of recha? It's like a king. Like it says in the pasuk, like it says, I'm today rach, tender, an anointed king. And if you want, I can bring a proof from here. It says, Vayikru lefanov avrech, and they called before Yosef, they called Yosef Avrech. Av is the word Avrech is broken into 2 words: Av, father, and Reich, king. That is, Yosef was the father, meaning the advisor to the king, and he was considered as a king. Amri Mishalayra Bidin Hurdas. It was said, whoever didn't see the Beis Hamikdash building that Hurdas had built, Loira Bidin Yamav, has not seen a truly beautiful building in his lifetime. My banya. With what type of materials did he build the Beis Hamikdash? Rabbi said with stones of green and white marble. Others say the others say that it was with stones of kuchla, of blue, and shaisha green, and white marble. Apik safa, 1 row of stones stuck out, and the other was recessed in. In order to provide a space to hold the cement. Hurdas thought to cover the entire Beis Hamikdash with a gold plating. Chacham said to him, leave it as it is. For this way is more attractive. The Merzei ki idvasa the yama. Since the different colors of the marble appears like the waves of the sea, and it's very attractive to the eye. How could he give advice for Hurdas to be able to do tshuva, enabling this Russia to escape from punishment? Rabbi Yehuda said the name of Rav, others say Rabbi Shimon Levi. For what reason was Daniel punished? Because he gave advice to Nebuchadnezzar on how to escape Hashem's anger. Daniel already interpreted his dream of the tree for the punishment that was for him, for this Nebuchadnezzar Harasha, for putting up a golden image to demonstrate his greatness and going against Hashem's will. And without anything, Daniel gave advice to Nebuchadnezzar that the kapara would possibly be through that if the king took upon himself to give out tzedakah among the poor. So that delayed a whole year from the punishment coming to Nebuchadnezzar. For that, Daniel was punished. Shanema, like it says in the pasuk, lahein malka yishba aloch v'chatoch betzidka pruk bava yosach v'meichan anoyin hein tave archa l'shal v'zasach. Like it says, nevertheless, king, let my advice be agreeable to you. Redeem your sins with giving tzedakah and being gracious to the poor. In this way, there will be an extension for your menucha uksiv b'loi matad al Nebuchadnezzar malka. And afterwards, it's written all the punishments foretold in a dream befell on King Nebuchadnezzar. Uksiv, it says liktzos yarchen treyasa. It's further written in the pasuk. When did it start? At 12 months later, meaning the Gzeira did come upon him, but because he listened to Daniel's advice, Nebuchadnezzar escaped his punishment for an entire year. Since Daniel's actions were judged for improper, for not doing the right thing, for giving him advice, so he was therefore punished. Why did Baba and Butta offer advice to Hudas if he saw that Daniel was punished for giving advice to Arasha to be forgiven? How could Baba and Butta give advice to Baba and Butta to Hudas that he should be forgiven? If you want, you could. One answer is that a slave is different than a chayv mitzvahs. A slave is mechuyev to observe the mitzvahs. So therefore, Rava performed the right thing minateda in assisting Hurdes for forgiveness because he wasn't a guy. However, Nebuchadnezzar was a guy. So for that was improper for Daniel giving him advice. And if you prefer, I can tell you Beis Hamikdash is different. Because without involvement of the king, it could have never been built. Such a big undertaking could only be done through a king. So therefore, Baba and Butta felt this is the only thing that he could do in order that the Beis Hamikdash should be built. So the Chassam Sofer says, what's the chiluk between the first answer and the second answer? Obviously, the first answer is that the reason that he was able to give advice, Baba and Butta was able to give advice to Hurdas because this is Inyum Minat Torah. Because Hurdas was a slave, Avid, and he was Mechuyev mitzvahs like a Isha, and therefore he had the right, and it's the right thing to help him do tshuva and continue, of course, to do the mitzvahs like Aisha. Mashen Kain, if you say the answer is because of the Beis Hamikdash, but there's such an enormous undertaking could only be done through a king. Baba and Butta, that comes out that Baba and Butta, he wasn't allowed to. It's like somebody who has a bad dream on Shabbos, that he has to fast on Shabbos, and for fasting on Shabbos, he has to make up for that fast on other days. So that'll say, Baba and Butta, the Chassam Sofer says that Baba and Butta felt guilty, because Taka Minat Torah, he wasn't allowed to give him advice, but for such a the undertaking, such an enormous undertaking as building the Beis Hamikdash was so special. That's why he did it. But he knew that it wasn't the right thing. And we know that Butter brought Hashem Tali every day. And he wanted to bring a day after Yom Kippur. The Chacham said there's no need to bring a Hashem Tali a day after Yom Kippur, because after Yom Kippur there are no Avedas. But Baba and Buddha, we understand why he wanted to bring Hashem Tali, because he felt that every piece of the Aved in the Beis Hamikdash, Hudis took part in it. Hudis Harasha was the one that built it, so he felt guilty, and that's why he wanted to bring Hashem Tali. And that's why he had the Shaila, if he could bring Hashem Tali even that day after Yom Kippur. So we want with Daniel, Benal, and the Yanish. Daniel, how do we know that he was punished? If you say that because it's written and Esther called to Hasach, Rav Hasach said Daniel, and interpreting the words, Rav says, meaning the word Hasach, which this is Daniel. This makes sense according to the one that says that Daniel was named because they cut him down from his greatness. Daniel fell from a high office, so that was his punishment. Taisa says that no, if you look in the Taisa on the top of the Yom, Shekol Dibi Malchus Niskavan Al Piv. But according to the Mandiyama, let's go back into Gemara. But according to the one that says that he was named because all of the state were decided to him was chotach, was cut, paskin to him. What can we say? I mean, that he was punished, that they threw Daniel into a den of lions, even though he was saved. But the etzim zach that he was put through it, that was his punishment. The exposure alone to danger was itself a punishment, even though he wasn't harmed by the lions. But if you look in Taisis, it says, "Shekol divi malchus niskama apila fi targum Achashverosh nema." According to the Targum, that Achashverosh nenash harbe shenerag, that he faket, that Daniel was punished very harshly, that he was killed. Like it says, that the words of Mordechai was told to the words. It was told to Mordechai the words of Esther. Like Kasav Hasach. All the time, Hasach was the one that brought over the words. Hasach was Daniel. So, and the last time when it says Vayigil Mordechai is Divya Esther, it doesn't say that Hasach gave it over to Mordechai. Lefi Shahargo Haman. Haman killed him. Al Shahayimeshes what made Esther Mordechai for Daniel passing the words from Esther to Mordechai, and the reverse as well. So that's what Taisa says, that he was that he had a very harsh punishment, that he was killed. Our Gemara doesn't chap on that punishment. The Dashim Megillah, because we see we dash the Megillah Daftes Bava Aleph. It says V'Hasach Lahechan Halach. It says, where did Hasach go? So you see that over there it doesn't. Why didn't the Gemara answer? Where did he go? He was killed. Obviously, he wasn't killed. That's according to our Gemara. We learned in the Mishnah that all should go according to the Minig Hamadina. What is Hakel coming to include? The extra word Hakel is coming to include a place where they had a minig building partitions with sticks as frames and palms attaching from one stick to the other. So even though this type of partition was a very shvacha one, nevertheless, we followed the minig Hamadina. But if there was a minig less than that, then they would not build it, because that would be considered as a minig shtus. Gemara says, if therefore, if the wall fell after many years, the place upon where the wall was standing, and the stones shall belong to both. In fact, Gemara, there's din pshita lefikach that he brought down. If the wall falls down, the makom havanim belong to both. Is a din pashut, even if the din was that you wouldn't be mechayiv the shutvim to give equally in the building of the wall, the din would have been so that the makom havanim belongs to both misafek. You're saying only because they were mechayiv in building the wall, that's why you divided, even if they both weren't able to be mechayiv one and the other to be mishtatev in building the wall. Nevertheless, the din would have been the makom havanim shall shnei misafek, because neither of them are muchzik in the makom uba'avanim more than the other. If it's a suffix, then we divide it. Here is talking about enough reshus lechad minayu, that the whole wall fell into the reshus of one of them, and if not for the hirav of the Mishnah, that one could be mechayiv the other to build a wall. So I would have said that the one that's holding has the whole wall in his reshus, it belongs to him, and if the other one wants to take out half, inami or the farninu chad l'shus, that one of the shutvim took the whole wall and placed it in his reshus, and through this he became a muchzik. That is talking about that he did it, and there were no eidim, and therefore he could have tied it. Listen, it's mine, and you have to bring a raya that this part, half of the wall is yours. If not, for the Mishnah saying the din that one could be mechayiv the other, I would have said that the other one who wants to claim that he has half in the wall and the whole wall is in one reshus, I would have said he has to bring a raya, and the whole wall that's in one reshus should stay in the yad hamuchzik till the other one brings a raya. Kamashman, that's why the Mishnah comes to teach us, since each shooter can be mechayiv his friend to be mishtatev in building the wall, so we accept the vadois that the kaisa was built through both. Sagt die Gemara, we learned in the Mishnah, v'chein begina, and so too by gina, makom shenagu live there in a place where they have the minhag to build mechayiv, and I say each one with shcheinim could be mechayiv the other to be mishtatev and putting up the wall in the middle. In fact, Gemara haku for kasha, this in itself is a kasha. Amnit, you said in the Mishnah, v'chein begina, so too by a garden, makom shenagu live there mechayiv, and I say in a place where they have a minhag to build, then one could be mechayiv the other, so you can be medayik hastama. But if there was no specific minhag, mechayiv, and I say you cannot be mechayiv the other one to be mishtatev. Mesechta, and look in the sefer, it says in the sefer aval bika, but by a valley, sadis tvua, makom shenagu shalei ligdain, a place where they have a minhag not to build mechayiv, and I say you cannot be mechayiv one another to build a wall in the middle of the chatzah hastama. But what if there was no specific minhag? Mechayiv and I say. So hashta comes out like this: Stam gina ma'atalei. By stam gina you were medayik that one cannot be mechayiv the other to build a wall, and by stam bika you were medayik that you could, but stam bika mebayik for sure. The din should be one shouldn't be able to be mechayiv the other, since the damage by gina is the biggest damage of ayin hara, and the by a gina you have the produce standing throughout the whole year, so there's a bigger hezek of ayin hara versus bika, which is right away gathered. Is very seldom that you find that the tvu is standing in the field, that the ayin hara could be applicable. For sure the din should be that one shouldn't be able to be mechayiv the other. Abaye said that the answer is like this: Hachikama. This is what the Mishnah is saying. V'chein stam gina. So too stam gina, and that's where you put a period. And from the words Mekayim Shenagel Ligda is going on Bika, a place where they have a Stam Gina is V'chein Stam Gina that one can be Mechayv the other. Or Mekayim Shenagel Ligda Bika, in a place where they have a minig to build by a Bika Mechayv, and I say one can be Mechayv the other one to be Mishtativ in the building of the Kesel. Amalei Rava, so Rava said back to Abaya, asked on Abaya, Im Kain, if this ket of the Mishnah, but when it starts from the words Makim Shenagu Ligdei, is going on Bika, and the second, and the Makim Shenagu Ligdei is also going on Bika, Praksich L'Shaila, what's the Piddish of Avol Bebika? In middle it says Avol Bebika. This lashon shows that till you came to the word avol, the words were applicable to Gina. Makom Shenoga Ligder was before avol, so it sounds like it was connected to Gina. And for the Gemara, Elam Rabba Hachi Ketani. Rather, Rabba says this is how you have to learn the kavanah of the Mishnah was like this: Chein Stam Gina, so to Stam Gina, if there's no specific minig, has a din has a din like a place would have a minig to build that each one can be mechayiv and each one can be mechayiv to be the shutav to be mishtated in building a wall between them. Avol stam bika, but stam bika in a bika where there's no specific minig has a din like a place where they don't have a minig to build a wall. And one cannot be mechayiv the other to be mishtativ in building the wall in the middle. So you see from here, Stam Gina is more chamor than a Stam Bika. Sai according to Abaya and Sai according to Rava. Zog the Gemara in the Hemshech of the Mishnah we learned El Imratza only if one of the shooter in the Bika wanted to build for himself. He brings the wall into his shoes and he makes a siman heker showing that he has the balabatish guide over the place and the kaisel. In fact, one of my chazes, what's the siman of heker of chazis that mentions in the Mishnah? Amar Rav Huna achpiyei le lekana levar. Rav Huna said that he has to bend the top of the wall towards the outside, meaning build outward, put a piece of cement building outward that it should look like it's tilted to the neighbor's side. In fact, we want to go, let him make the sign on the inside of the wall. Why should it face the neighbor's property? Because if the owner would place the sign on the inside of the wall, his neighbor will also make a sign on the outside of the wall and claim and say that this wall belongs to me and you, pointing to the two signs as proof. And the owner of the wall, that's why the owner of the wall has to place the cement on the outside. In fact, the Gemara Yehachi is so hashda nami guys leilachavei. Even if you make it on the outside as a cement, but nevertheless the neighbor could go and chisel down the take off the cement and say that this wall is mine and yours. And there won't be a sign to disprove it. If he's going to try to chisel off that cement, it's going to be recognizable. Everybody will know. And you could tell that there's a hecker, there's a remnants from this that he chiseled off. Those that say that the sikha, the conversation was like this. Rav Huna said that he must bend the top of the wall towards the inside. And the Gemara is, but let him make it towards the outside of the wall to prevent the neighbor from doing the same. After the Gemara, guy is because the neighbor could easily take it or shear it off, cut it off, and say that this wall is mine and yours. In fact, Gemara Yachi, Ashtanami, Layif, Alei, Chavrei. So even though he does it on the inside, but now this same simon, the neighbor can build on his side, attach another sign on his side of the wall, and say that this wall is mine and yours. I mean, you want to live fufa made a yadiyah. But if he makes an attachment, then it's going to be recognizable once the wall was built. Before you're building it and you're building this attachment right at the beginning, as you're building it, then you could see it. It came together with the building of the wall. But once you attach it after the wall was built, you could tell it's a new attachment. In fact, but the Mishnah teaches that he makes the signs on the outside. So how could Avuna say that the sign has to be on the inside? Kasha. This is Taka Kasha. Rabbi Yochanan gives us a different way of making a sign. Let him simply smear the wall with lime on the outside at the top to the extent of an amma. According to Rabbi Yochanan, the owner doesn't have to create some kind of protrusion of stone and cement, just lime. But let him make a sign on the inside. Why does it have to face the neighbor's property? If the owner makes the sign on his side, his neighbor will make another on the outside and say, that the wall is mine and yours. So the Gemara says, if so, if the neighbor's trust is in factor hashtanami, even now that the sign is facing outward, he'll peel off the coating of lime and say, that the wall is mine and yours. A peeling of the coating is recognizable. You can tell there'll be remnants of it. We said hutza, if the wall was made of palm, so how is the sign made? Nachman said the tips of the palm those tips should be attached on the outside. So let him make the fence so that the tips are placed towards the inside. Why should they face the shachan's property? Because if the tips are placed on the inside, the neighbor will also add some branches and arrange that the tips on the outside, which is his side, and say that it's both. It belongs to both of us. In fact, if the neighbor's integrity is a problem, let the neighbor, so the neighbor could put on, take off the tips, and he can cut off the tips and say that the wall is mine and yours, and there's no simon anymore. So the builder should coat the fence with mud so that the tips cannot be removed to hold the sign strong, to preserve the sign. Even now, the owner is not protected. Why? Because the neighbor can go and scrape off the mud from the tips, claiming that the fence is both of ours. If you're talking about scraping, will be noticed that it was scraped off. Abaya says, one who builds a fence of palm leaves, there is no takana, there is no remedy. Only with a star. Zog the Mishnah, but if they acted and put up the wall with both agreeing to it, so the Mishnah says when a wall is built with both of them agreeing to it, then you have to put up two signs, each one on each side. Let neither neighbor make a sign, and we would automatically know that it belongs to both of them. Rav Ashi said back to Rabbi Pazika, you don't need two chazizas, only in a case where the Kadam Chadam and I over the day. when one of the Shchenim jumped and made for himself a chazis, and he made the sign while the wall was being built. And if his neighbor does not make immediately a sign, he'll say that the wall is his. So therefore he has to make it. Therefore you need to have another sign. Does the Tana teach us a remedy against deceivers? Amalei, so Ravashi answers back to Rava, and the previous halacha is not a remedy against Ramoyim to prevent the neighbor from fraudulently claiming the ownership. So that's why we said that we should build a chazis. Amalei Bishlem Reisha, so Rava said back to Ravashi, Binagay to the Reisha, Tanididon. The Tana, our Tana, lechatchila taught us a din of a mechitza by bika. That stins, stam bika, there's no minute to build. Neither of them can force the chaver to be mishtatim, building a wall between them. Rather, he has to bring it into his own shoes and build it on his property alone. And so, therefore, Tana Takanta, Ilana Takana, Ela Sefer, where they both agreed to build the wall together. Dina Katani, the Katani Takanta. Did they learn a din that you should have to learn a Takana? Omer Ravina said, Hacha b'hutzi askinan. Over here, we're dealing with hutzim. Hutzim meaning the palm branches. And La Fukim Abaya, and the case specifically is detailing the use of signs in order to exclude from Abaya, the Amma Hutza Lesla Takanta, who says that Hutza, when you're dealing with palm branches or reeds, there is no takana of making a sinan. Ela b'shtara. The only way it could be a siman is only through a shtar. The Mishnah therefore informs us that a sign is going to be good enough to prove ownership of such a wall. But according to Abaya, on the other hand, he says, yeah, it's acceptable for the Tana of the Mishnah to concern himself only v'negeya to providing a remedy against Ramai.